Once the annual planning and goal-setting conference has occurred, observations and their associated post-observation conferences can begin. Observations of principals are governed by the rules found in Achieve NJ. School leader supervisors must conduct at least 2 observations for tenured and 3 for non-tenured principals, assistant principals, and vice principals. They must include a post-observation conference within 15 working days following the observation and may use the annual summary conference for the final post-observation conference. Observations must be conducted using a state-approved principal practice instrument. It is common for districts to conduct observations for principals in the same way they conduct classroom observations for teachers. For principals, this typically consists of 1 superintendent visit to the school per observation. After the visit, the superintendent and the principal debrief in a post-observation conference. While single-point observations for principals are acceptable under Achieve NJ rules, superintendents may find it challenging to collect the breadth of evidence necessary to accurately and fairly evaluate the diverse nature of the practice of their school leaders. For the NJ People process, we do not recommend using this method of observation. Instead, the NJ People process uses a portfolio approach for observations to provide a more comprehensive picture of the principal's work. We recommend using an observation window of 2 to 3 months during which evidence is collected by the superintendent and shared by the principal. The exact time frame and types of evidence collected for the portfolio should be determined at the annual planning and goal-setting conference. As mentioned in the annual planning and goal-setting conference video, observation evidence can be classified as direct or indirect. Direct evidence is collected while the superintendent observes and the principal is present and leading. Items include, but are not limited to, teacher post-observation conferences, instructional rounds, hiring interviews, and faculty meetings. Indirect evidence is collected when the superintendent is not present, but evaluates the principal's effectiveness through the actions and words of others and through artifacts. Examples include, but are not limited to, data meetings led by teacher leaders, stakeholder feedback on surveys, testimonies of staff and students, state test and benchmark testing results, media agendas, and social media posts. This example shows direct and indirect evidence that might be collected and/or shared for Domain 3, Professional Capacity of School Personnel, as described by the NJ People Observation Instrument. The superintendent attended one of the principal's monthly faculty meetings during which the principal previewed an upcoming PD day. Teacher leaders facilitated the remainder of the meeting, conducting data review and leading and planning the preparation for the PD day. In this case, the superintendent witnessed the leadership of the principal directly. The superintendent also collected indirect evidence of the principal's practice in form of artifacts that represent the principal's work in Domain 3. These artifacts included agendas and meeting notes of the grade level chairs leading PLCs focused on data and action, pineapple charts demonstrating teacher choice in the visitation of each other's classrooms to observe lessons, and a schedule displaying teacher-led PD offered weekly and after-school sessions. The post-observation conference is a critical part of the evaluation process that, when conducted well, provides an important coaching and support opportunity for the principal. In the NJ People process, the end of the observation window triggers the post-observation conference. This conference must be held within 15 working days of the end of the window and provides an opportunity for the principal and superintendent to debrief on the observation period and plan for next steps. To prepare for this conference, in advance, the principal and supervisors should independently review the administrator's goals and PDP. The principal should submit additional relevant evidence voluntarily and/or at the superintendent's request. Finally, the superintendent should prepare the observation report. The post-observation conference itself can be broken down into 5 activities. The principal and superintendent should 1. Reflect on evidence gathered during the observation window, and 2. Discuss progress toward administrator goals and PDP. 3. They should also review school and student data, including MSGP scores if available, to inform any course corrections and establish priorities. 4. The superintendent should provide actionable feedback verbally and through the completed observation report. And finally, 5. The superintendent should provide the principal with an observation score. If the post-observation conference is combined with the annual summary conference at the end of the evaluation cycle, the observation score will be the final observation score for the year. The conversation that occurs during the post-observation conference provides a powerful coaching opportunity. When conducting the conference, consider the following 5-step feedback protocol to maximize the value of these conversations. Begin with praise by narrating the positive. For example, you might say, Over the past few months, I've been impressed by the way you provided leadership opportunities to your staff. You may follow this opening with examples that concretely support your praise. Step 2 is inquiry. Start with a targeted question and add scaffolding as needed. For example, how have best practices in sheltered instruction been spotlighted thus far? Step 3 is the action step. Use questions to lead to a concrete action step. For example, have you considered having teacher leaders conduct follow-up coaching sessions at PLC meetings? Step 4 is to plan ahead. Design or revise actions to implement the action step. For example, let's take a look at the current responsibilities of these teachers to see if there is a way to offer extra coaching. Finally, set a timeline for follow-up. The superintendent might say, let's revisit this during our next one-on-one next month. Next, we will watch the second of 3 videos that represent the 3 components of the NJ People process. This abridged simulation shows a post-observation conference. You can access this video using the link in the resource section below. Prior to viewing the video, pause this presentation. While watching the video, take note of the activities and protocols of the conference, and be prepared to discuss in the ways in which the conference meets the criteria of the NJ People process and in which ways it might be improved. After watching the video, discuss your findings with a partner and then discuss with the whole group. Use the handout provided in the supplemental materials to help complete this activity. The previous video provides a brief window into a more detailed and lengthy conversation. In this brief snippet, the superintendent and principal's conversation covered many areas that should be discussed in the post-observation conference. Strengths seen where preparation for the conference was clear, the priority domain was discussed, as was evidence of general progress. Had time allowed, the educators could have assessed the principal's observation score, reviewed the administrator goal more thoroughly, and discussed other domains and the related evidence.